Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to skip the fancy marketing and the big keynotes. We're unlocking the real rulebook for building apps in Apple's world. These are the unspoken standards, the hard truths you absolutely need to know if you actually want to ship something great.
Yeah, we're cutting right through the jargon to get to the stuff that matters, the practical reality of being a professional Swift developer. No fluff, these are the rules that separate the hobby projects from the apps that actually make it onto people's phones. And it all starts with the language itself. Okay, first things first, you have to accept that Swift is strict. It's designed to be. It forces you to be disciplined, to think about all the weird edge cases from the very beginning. And look, if you try to fight it, you're going to lose. But if you embrace that discipline, you'll wipe out like 90% of the crashes that plague other apps. Its strictness is actually its superpower. So what's the secret sauce? At the very heart of Swift safety is this one concept, the optional. See, in the old days, the number one reason apps crashed was trying to use a piece of data that, well, just wasn't there, a null value. Swift fixes this by wrapping any value that might be empty in this optional box. It forces you, the developer, to safely check what's inside before you're even allowed to use it. And this slide right here shows the two roads you can take. On the left, you've got the rookie move, force unwrapping with that exclamation mark. Our source material is really clear on this. Don't do it. It's basically you telling the app, hey, I'm sure there's something here, and if there isn't, just go ahead and crash. It's a disaster waiting to happen. The professional way, the right way, is guard-let. It's clean, it's safe, and it keeps your app from blowing up. But here's the thing. Even if your app never crashes, it can still die a slow, painful death. There's another threat, a much sneakier one, that the source calls the silent killer: memory leaks. These things don't cause a sudden crash. Oh no, it's worse. They just silently eat up your app's memory, bit by bit, until everything grinds to a halt and the operating system has to shut you down. So how does this even happen? Well, Swift keeps track of memory by counting how many things are pointing to an object. When that count hits 0, poof, the memory is freed. Simple, right? But it has a blind spot: circles. Imagine two objects holding onto each other so tightly that neither one can ever let go. They get stuck in memory forever. The fix is a simple, non-negotiable habit for every pro developer: weak self. You just have to do it. Think of it as telling one of the objects to have a lighter grip so the circle can finally be broken. Okay, so your code is safe. No crashes, no memory leaks. Awesome. But is it organized? Because without a solid plan, a good architecture, even the safest code turns into a giant, tangled mess. A mess that nobody on your team, not even you 6 months from now, will be able to understand. And oh yeah, developers have a name for this mess. It's not a compliment. It's called the massive view controller. This is the monster that appears when you don't have a plan. It's where everything gets dumped: your networking code, your data logic, your UI updates, all into one giant file that is impossible to test or maintain. It is the definition of chaos. So how do you stop that monster from showing up? For like 95% of apps out there, the answer is an architecture called MVVM, Model View View Model. Think of it like this. The model is just the raw data, kind of dumb. The view is also dumb. It just shows stuff on the screen. The view model, that's the brain. It's the chef. It takes the raw data, prepares it perfectly for the view, and handles all the logic. This separation is what keeps the chaos away. Now let's talk about the part of the app people actually see, the user interface. Because right now, this is probably the biggest debate happening in the entire Apple developer community. It's basically a battleground between two different ways of building your UI. On one side, you have Swift UI. It's the new hotness. It's fast, you write way less code, and it is clearly the future. But, and it's a big but, it's still pretty new, a little immature. Some complex stuff is just plain hard to do. On the other side, you have UKit. This thing is a tank. It's been around forever, it's rock solid, and you have total control. But man, it is a lot of work to set up. And that leads to the million-dollar question, right? The decision every single developer has to make. Do you bet on the future and deal with the rough edges of Swift UI? Or do you stick with the proven, reliable, but kind of clunky past of UIKit? Well, here's what the pros are doing. They're not choosing. They're doing both. This is the practical, smart strategy. You use Swift UI for all the easy stuff: the lists, the setting screens, the simple views. But the moment you hit a wall and need something really custom or complicated, you just wrap up an old battle-tested UKit component and bring it right into your Swift UI world.
You really get the best of both. Building a great app isn't just about the code you write. You're not on a deserted island. There's a whole ecosystem of tools out there, and knowing which ones to use and which to avoid is what separates a pro from a rookie. Let's start with how you bring other people's code into your project. And look, the source material could not be more clear about this. Forget the old tools, just forget them. The rule is simple. Use Swift Package Manager, or SPM. It's built right into Xcode, it's clean, and it's the undisputed modern standard. Period. End of story.
Next up, storing data. Using the wrong tool here is a classic mistake. It's like using a sledgehammer to hang a picture. For tiny little things like a user's settings, use user defaults. It's super simple. For a complex web of your app's data, you need the big guns, like Apple's core data or Swift data. Need something else? Maybe look at Realm. The point is, match the tool to the complexity of the job.
All right, we've come to our final hard truth, and it's a big one. You can write the most beautiful, perfect, crash-free code in the world, but it means nothing until you get past the final boss, the App Store review team. Yeah, writing the code is only half the battle. Tons of apps get rejected, but it's usually for the same few reasons, so listen up. First, if your app crashes during review, it's an instant no, game over. Second, if your app is just your website stuffed inside a shell, they're going to reject it. They want real native functionality. And third, and this is the big one, don't even think about trying to get around Apple's payment system. And speaking of that payment system, you just need to know this number. It's the cost of doing business in Apple's world. If you sell any digital goods, subscriptions, game items, extra features, you have to use their system. And they will take a 15 to 30% cut. It's a fundamental, non-negotiable rule of the game. So, there you have it. The language is strict, the architecture demands a plan, and the App Store has high walls and powerful gatekeepers. But these aren't just random rules. They're the foundation of an ecosystem that pushes for high-quality apps. And by understanding them, by knowing how to play the game, you're equipped to build something amazing. The only question left is, are you ready to get started?